Sincerely speaking. Well, even if oil dries up, even the so-called Niger Delta, there are so many other resources too, apart from oil.
That's right.
Okay.
So why oil?
Fishery opportunities and a number of
I'm afraid it's heavy to say that we've lost it because they have just 1 week. If whatever they have done all this while, if they have not mapped out the strategy that will make Nigeria stay together, more prosperous and more cohesive, if they have not done that by now, I'm afraid it's another lost opportunity.
Well, we do have to move on, but before we move away from national conference, the issue of state creation came up at the national conference. What's your thoughts about it? Some people said that they only just mentioned that there are applications for about 18 more states, but that they have not said that they should be approved.
Okay. Well, if they say that it shouldn't be approved, I mean, that should be a wise decision. But if you ask for additional states, and somebody is going ahead without the economics of state creation, then you're not being fair to this country. We send them there to go and strengthen this country, not to go and further divide and then make us to be a liability to one another. You know, people agitating for state are actually looking towards the oil. Oh, at the end of the month, you go to Abuja and collect, and they come and run the governor, the governor's wife, you know, the state chief judge, the judges, you know, the bureaucracy you create in, you know, state. You know, instead of the money you use to develop the people, you are using that money to pay salaries and another, which is not, that is not what we want. We want, if you want to have your state, then upon a defined criteria, oh, you must have the population, quite all right, then you must have resources that you will generate to run your state independently without going to Abuja. If you satisfy all that criteria, let's give you a state. But if you don't, and you are looking forward towards going to Abuja to go and collect money, then you don't have any state will be given to you. That is the point. Well, Easterners are asking for one. Yes, you know, if it is politically expedient, because the issue of economics is also key to me. If maybe for political balancing, but not for economy.
Exactly.
Yes, following me, you give it to them and all that, if it is worth it. But for me, additional state, even single state at this point in time, is an unwise decision and shouldn't be, you know, tolerated. You're talking about 54 states, sir. In America, that is a continent, is 50. A continent, you're a country, you're talking about 54 states. Unwise decision. On what basis? What is the criteria set out? You don't do things that way, sir. So we send them there to strengthen Nigeria. I keep on saying it because this is the last bus stop. You know, it asks the question of what are they supposed to do. This is the last bus stop of us as a nation to really restructure Nigeria, sir, for efficiency. If we miss this opportunity, sir, the agitations, the anger is so much to a boiling point. That is why you see criminality and crime all over the country. The graduates, so many of them, millions, and there are no jobs. And we are saying, let's strengthen this country so that governance will get to every nook and cranny, and people will begin to feel the presence of government and the country and begin to say, wake up in the morning and say, God bless Nigeria. But for now, people are not saying so. Okay. People are angry.
Okay, Zakabala.
Yeah,
let's move now to other issues of state on state of the nation. The issue of insecurity. You wanted to say something about that, but you will say it. Let me just very quickly ask you this question. Insecurity. Our children are still out there. What is it that we're failing to do? Or what is it we're failing to share as a nation and as government that is making it such that Nigerians feel our federal government is doing nothing about this? But make your point and then answer the question.
Well, okay, like just in addition to what he was saying about the confab, you know, it's only retired or ex-presidents that we don't have in that confab. We have retired IGs, retired governors, retired judges, Senate presidents, judges,
and lawyers,
everybody.
Lawyers.
Because at the beginning of that conference, to be honest, a lot of the Nigerian youths were boiling.
Angry.
They wanted to have more representation of the youths compared to the elders. But I was against the youths then, because I thought the youths were just the few that went there should go relax and get knowledge and wisdom downloaded to them. You know, that was why I was, but considering what is happening, I've passed my mid-40s. The display some of us are seeing is not a good representation of people who have worked with the United Nations, have been ambassadors, and honestly, within this 1 week, if they don't fix it, history and Nigeria will not forgive them. Because at the end of the day, they ended up In fact, they dwarfed the youths. The youths basically went and probably followed the advice some of us gave. Went, look, listen, and learn. But I don't want to believe the youths that went there as delegates learned anything. Our elders honestly will not be forgiven by history if they don't use this next week to fix things up. God help them.
Okay. Back to the issue of our kids who are being abducted. Insecurity. What is it that the federal government is missing out that is not inspiring confidence in whatever effort that they're making to bring back our girls? And have at the back of your mind that over the last week or two, there's been reports of so many of our soldiers practically laying down their lives and losing it as a result of this insurgency.
I think the problem we had with the government has been management of information, you know. And when you talk about information, you are talking basically about processed data. When you talk about data, data basically talk about attributes of an entity or activity. At the beginning, you know, we had attributes and data on Boko Haram, right? Where Boko Haram was. Who, as an entity, we knew Boko Haram. Then, as activities, how the government and other security agencies were supposed to go about, you know, rescuing the girls or even fixing insecurity. But we got to a point where the data was not properly managed and processed. Because the data was not managed and processed properly, you got the wrong information. And the information that came also was not properly managed. So it created doubt. Because we had situations where some people said Shekau was killed, some said Shekau is still the real Shekau. As far as I'm concerned, honestly, Shekau didn't die. Because the voice I used to hear was the same voice I still see. The dentition, I'm just telling you. So Nigerians are now left to individually use their own intuition to assess the situation rather than relying on an institution called Nigerian government or security agencies.
That's dangerous.
Okay, so you said that is dangerous, and you also have a situation now where some people are saying that stop asking the federal government to bring back our girls. Go to Boko Haram and tell them to bring back our girls. What's your thought on that?
That is very, very unfortunate. For any government official to make that statement is unfortunate. And like I said, when people are bereft of ideas, all sorts of things will now begin to come out. Now, one major problem I've identified, which I've said at so many fora, is the fact that there are so many fifth columnists. There are moles within the system. And these have made it increasingly difficult for those who are actually working for Nigeria, for those who are actually working, who are sincere in the agencies to really do their work. Because you have moles within the system. These are people who ordinarily will be seen as, you know, people who work for government and all that. So all information will be divulged to them, the strategy, how to do that. But before you get off from the meeting point, the Boko Haramists are aware of what you are
Exactly.
So that's why they always take 2 steps ahead of the Nigerian government. That is why when you deploy troops to a particular place, for instance, you discover that, you know, shortly after the Nigerian army leaves that place, Boko Haram will strike. Intelligence is filtering. That is counterintelligence. That is filtering here and there. Until we are able to nip that in the bud, we're able to plug these holes, we will not make progress. That's why I have advised time and time again that the president should utilize his power. For me now, he's underutilizing that power of the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
How would he do that?
Without sounding, you know, to be or, you know, leaking information which should be very, very exclusive. But I would just say vaguely this way. If I were to be the CNC, for instance, I'll have my own, let me quote unquote, army of loyalists who will be able to tell who among us is against us. Who among us is against us? There are some intelligent gathering you can do even within the army of soldiers. So